It looks like the GRE at-home version of the test is here to stay. So I thought I would reflect back on the experience of taking the test at home in August of 2020 and talk about four main things that I think you should do in order to hopefully be successful on the at-home version of the test. The GRE itself, the test itself, will be the same no matter if you take it at a test center or at home. But at home, there are a lot more concerns because there have been plenty of horror stories that you can read about online of people's tests being canceled and lots of different things happening because they were maybe accused of cheating. So I just want to talk through a few things, a few tips that hopefully will help that experience go more smoothly. The first is prepare your space and your internet connection ahead of time. In terms of internet connection, you can download all the software, make sure that it works. You can test it ahead of time from the ETS GRE website. I had a problem, which I talked about in my first video about the at-home test. I had an issue because I was using a Mac, which I didn't know at the time, but there's some extra security layers when we're dealing with screen recording. And so that took a while to get figured out on the day of the test. So I would certainly recommend looking into it all ahead of time so it doesn't take too much time day of. And then in terms of your space, you need to have the space be very clean. There can't be anything in there. So, put everything away, put it in a closet or something. And you want to set it up so that you're sitting with your back to the door. So the proctor on your computer can see the door behind you. And, hopefully definitely no one should be coming into that room or knocking on the door, anything, while you're in there taking the test. So make sure that that environment is as conducive as possible to not only not having the proctor think you're doing anything shady, but also for you to have the best test experience as possible. I like to think about it like if I were at a testing center, I wouldn't be able to bring anything into the space with me except for a pencil, and that computer can only go to the GRE and it can't do anything else. So try to set up your space at home to be that same kind of situation. The next thing is you're not allowed to use regular scratch paper for the at-home version of the test. You can either use transparencies with markers or a whiteboard. And I used a whiteboard when I did the at-home version of the test. And I specifically bought a whiteboard that was bigger than standard paper size, like bigger than 8.5 by 11 inches, just a little oversized so that it would be really clear to the proctor watching through my computer screen that I was writing notes on the problem I was working on. You can kind of angle it in such a way so that it's clear why your eyes are kind of looking a little bit away from the screen. The other piece of it is that you can practice using that whiteboard just a little bit before test day, just so that you're a little bit comfortable using it as scratch paper, and that won't hold you back at all on the day of the test. Next, I had some issues, and you can go back and watch that original video I made right after I took the test at home, but I had some technical issues, and then the proctor had some technical issues. There's like a code that the proctor has to put in to allow the test to begin, and he had the wrong code or it wasn't working, and so he had to call ETS. So I would say that being very communicative with the proctor is really important. And in my case, I read a story where lots of stories where people had to be on the phone with ETS because of technical issues. In my case, the proctor got on the phone with them, which I think was a much better situation because they he is sort of an employee of them, not really, but sort of. And so they actually helped him and made it easier and gave him whatever he needed for my test to begin. But I've read stories where the test taker had to be on the phone with them during the testing time, and that just sounds like such a nightmare. So I would recommend trying to get, if it gets to that situation, trying to push the proctor to be the one to actually call. And in a similar vein, when it comes to being communicative with your proctor, anytime you're going to take a bathroom break, on the at-home version of the test, you can only really take a break in between sections. And I would definitely message the proctor and make sure you get a response back saying, I'm going to the bathroom, before you leave. So make sure, as much as you can, you are communicating with that person who's watching you take the test. And then lastly, I think it's really important to be mentally prepared that something might go wrong. There might be a delay in your test at home. And if you know that your test is at 10 a.m., let's say, but you expect the delay to last at least 20 minutes, then you're mentally preparing to begin your exam at 10:20 or maybe even later. Personally, my test started about an hour and a half late. So, knowing that could happen can help you just be more calm in the moment and then actually perform well on the exam. Ultimately, the at-home version of the test is great for people who really can't make it to a testing center, and I'm glad that it's still an option for people. But I will say, given how difficult it is, not the test itself, but everything surrounding the test at home, I definitely think if you're able to go to a testing center, that is the way to go, because at the test center, this is what they do there. That it's just a room that's set up for people to be taking proctored exams all the time. And so the technical issues are not going to be a thing. There's going to be a locker for you to store all your stuff, and someone checking you in. And so it just takes out a lot of the stress and a lot of the canceled tests that I've heard about. But again, I think that you can certainly have a good experience with the GRE at home. I feel like even though it took an hour and a half for me to start the test, the experience itself, once I got into it, was totally fine. And my proctor was really nice and helpful. So I got really lucky, I think. And so that's really the thing is it could be that your situation is perfect. You plan everything ahead of time. Your technology works in it, and your whiteboard, and it all goes smoothly, and that would be great. It's just, it could also not go smoothly through no fault of your own. So that is something to consider when thinking about which version of the test you're going to take. So I hope that this was helpful. Happy studying to you, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.